With transactions stored on the blockchain, users can now calculate their balance in currency based on the blockchain history. The foundational idea is to add up all the outputs in each block that are addressed to a user's matching public key. The sum total of all of these outputs should be the user's balance. Let's ask the question, when do we want to update this balance? Well, whenever we do transactions, we calculate the exchange of currency based on the user's current balance. So it's best to at least calculate this balance for a user's wallet whenever they conduct a new transaction. It could also be possible to expose a balance endpoint in the server, which does the balance calculation at any time and sends the result to the requester. Again, the basic idea for the balance calculation is to sum up all the outputs that belong to an individual. However, the calculation can be a little more complex. There is a catch. Indeed, a user's balance is the sum total of all the outputs that belong to him or her. However, it's only the sum total of all transactions since their most recent transaction. Why? Well, if a user conducts a transaction, then they will generate an output which details how much currency they should end up with as a result of the transaction. However, the next balance calculation may use this resulting output, as well as any output amounts that came before it. This would be a double counting of transactions in the history of a user's balance. Let's explore this possible problem further by looking at an example. Say user Foo wants to make a transaction which sends 50 currency to Bar. Foo's balance is recalculated based off of adding up all the outputs in the blockchain's history that have sent currency to Foo. So Foo's balance is calculated to 600 based on the previous transactions. When Foo's new transaction to send 50 to Bar is submitted, a new transaction is eventually added to the blockchain, which sends 50 of Foo's currency to Bar and leaves 600 minus 50, in other words, 550 currency for Foo. So Foo's balance should now be 550. But if a balance recalculation adds up all the outputs in the blockchain history, that balance will actually be 600 plus 550, which is 1,150 and incorrect. So the real balance of a user is calculated by only adding up the outputs that have occurred since the last transaction of that user, including that last transaction. Therefore, a balance calculation that only looks at the most recent transaction and any following outputs shows the true balance for that user, and in this case, the true balance of Foo is 550. So with these ideas in mind, let's implement the balance calculating functionality in our project.